You're not the cow I thought I'd be milking today. Moo! Alreet petals, how you doing? It's your girl Lady Flegman, and welcome back to my channel, where we talk about everything YouTube doesn't want us to talk about. And today's video is most certainly a video YouTube doesn't want me talking about. Now, before we get started, I need to address the elephant in the room. His name is Gary, and he likes apples. Everyone say hello to Gary. Hello. The other elephant in the room is the fact that I've been gone a hot minute or two. Long story short, life sucked for a while. Quite a few people that were close, should I say, have unfortunately died. And I kind of lost passion in doing videos for a little bit. I basically wasn't enjoying what I was doing, especially with the way that I was making scripts. As you probably all know, I used to talk a lot like this, and now this is my British broadcasting voice, and it's something that I picked up when I went to my speech therapy class. Because if you're not all aware, I have a speech impediment. So yeah, basically the reason why I do that for is because I script like I'm writing essays rather than just me talking. So we're going to try something different. There is no script. Just rough notes and my inability to string a sentence together properly. I'm sure this will be fine. It will be fine. We'll figure it out. I'm also changing things up a little bit as well. This is something that I have been wanting to do and have talked about it before, but I'm going to review smut books. Now this came about because the lovely Shoe on Head, or as I like to call her, Hat on Foot, made a video discussing the craziness of women's romance books, with a focus being on this particular book. Now it's no surprise to most that I myself like a smut book, or several. So I'll be honest with you, it made me chuckle that the normies are finding the degen stuff. So much so that I actually made this tweet. Anyway, I decided to ask the good people of Twitter if I were to start reviewing smut books, which one would they like me to do first? Can you guess which one they chose? Joke's on them because there's an actual surprise at the end, and they're not expecting it. You know who you are. So with all that said, go make yourself a cuppa, grab some snacks, and relax while I lose my mind over milking Minotaurs. Oh, before we go any further, this video, like all my videos, will definitely be censored, so if you'd like to watch the uncensored version, or listen to the react read-through of this entire book, head over to the Patreon page. Link is in the description. Thanking you all muchly. Right, let's actually get into this review, shall we? So it starts off with a training video, going over how a speedy collection makes for happy clients. It's narrated by a fox-like woman. Now I bring this up because her description changed from page to page, and I wasn't sure if she was a humanoid fox, or she was just being described as having fox-like features. We're introduced to Violet, who I also kept wanting to call Violent during my read-through. That's more my speech impediment than on her character. Well, we'll come to that, actually. We have a bit of whiplash here as well, with Violet suddenly talking about her dementia-riddled neighbour, who I will be calling Mrs. M, because my speech impediment couldn't figure out how to say her name properly. Violet berates herself for having such obscene things open on her laptop in the privacy of her own flat, on the off chance that said neighbour with dementia were to walk in on her and keel over on the site of, wait for it, Minotaur. Page 2, people, page 2. This is also the start of the grammar and spelling mistakes, and before people come for me, I'm dyslexic. I totally get spelling errors. Hell, I even spelled dyslexic wrong in my rough notes. But I'm not a professional. I'm not professionally published in anything. I mean, I'd love to be, don't get me wrong. But these books are. Well, I say that. I have a conspiracy about the publishing company of this, but that's my own conspiracy. But yeah, these are actually published bestsellers, and they have spelling errors on the second page and throughout the entire book. Actually, that should not be happening. I'm sorry, it just shouldn't be happening. Rant over. Moving on. Now, something that I did notice in this book is that we don't use character names a lot throughout this book at all. And there are a few occasions where I got completely lost and confused on who was being referenced or who was talking, including the following passage. Her portal access, who's Mrs. M's? I think we're talking about Violet again. I generally thought we were still talking about old Mrs. M until it mentioned the milking farm, and I realised, oh no, hang on a minute, we're talking about the main character here, aren't we? Authors, a little writing tip, it's perfectly fine to use characters' names. I know we're all told not to overuse them, but underusing them can still be bad too. I also had some more confusion over the fox-like fox woman, because here she's now just called Fox Woman. The implication of the fox woman, oh, she's a fox woman now, she's not just fox-like, she's a fox woman. A feminist wrote this, you know. Such a feminist that they forgot to name several female characters. Moving on, we get a flashback, one of many, and I have no issue with flashbacks in stories, but if you're going to do it, can you do it properly, please? Because if they're not done properly, they can get very confusing. And that certainly happens throughout this book. It goes over the job listing Violet finds for the farm, complete with grammar mistake, full benefits, flexible hours, visit our website for more information and apply today. The name of the pharmaceutical company behind it all is called Fizzle, and I couldn't help but make the connection that followed next. Is a subsidiary of Fizzle Pharmaceuticals. Pfizer, is that you? Is that what you've been doing? Is that why the coof doesn't work? It's just bullshit. What makes it funnier is that this story was actually crafted back in 2001, I believe. So, who knows where she got her inspiration from? And also, for obvious and legal reasons, that is a joke. Violet also talks about the job requirements and benefits that come with said job, including dental. Thank you. And she says that she has no idea what a milking technician could be. To which I simply said, really? You can't figure out what a milking technician is? Is this my country girl privilege showing? Is it really that confusing to you city folk? Even if this wasn't a smut book, I'm sure people could put two and two together and come up with milk. We also talk about Violet being overeducated and unable to get a job in her field. The first time of many. We don't actually get told what her degree is either, until much, much, much later in the book, which led to me coming up with my own ideas of what her degree was. Chicken tickling. It's chicken tickling, isn't it? We're then brought back into the present in Violet's flat, where we talk about the family upstairs that are doing a square dance. At least I hope that's what they're doing. And apparently a phone call that confused the hell out of me. She gripped the phone with what? Oh, she's on the phone! I was very confused there for a minute. No end of flashback, just whiplash. I think this is still in a flashback, but dear lord, I got very confused. Violet talks about the city she lives in called Bridgerton, and I had this to say. Moving to Bridgerton, don't bring Bridgerton into this. She also talks about how she's an only child, and her mother is the typical overbearing smother. We talk more about Violet being well-educated, and, well, I had this to say in the book. And get a better degree, pet. Now, before anyone comes for me with pitchforks, let me explain something that I think a lot of you need to hear. 8 out of 10 of you won't find a job in the field you are studying.
That's a nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
Where did I pull that statistic from? My backside. But it's still very true. I, for example, have a degree that means that I have an entry level in veterinary nursing. Have I used my degree? Yes, for a while. I did have a job within the fields that I studied in. Then I became my husband's carer, may he rest in peace. And life changed, but that's a different video. If your field isn't in something that actually is in demand, nursing, doctors, mechanical engineers, trades, then I'm sorry to say you're not likely to find work in your degree field, or at least a job that's going to pay well, which is what Violet keeps complaining about. Anyway, back to the story. Going back a moment to the phone call Violet was having with her mother calls Violet's father Daddy, and I had this reaction. Pumpkin, Daddy, and I... No. Now, I have no issue with a partner saying it in the heat of the moment. Hell, I've said it a few times. But please never ever refer to your actual father as Daddy. I know this is probably a cultural thing. I'm aware my Britishness is showing right this minute. But just no thank you. Now, back to Violet complaining about her poor life choices, and she mentions that she had a job in urban planning, which had kind of put her degree to use. I thought at first maybe she was an architect. I then still came up with my other idea of what her degree was in. Violet also says this line, and I had this to say: Bridgerton was too expensive, and Violet had come to admit she didn't actually love living in the middle of a big urban city the way she thought she would. Country life for the win, baby. More complaining about poor life choices and being overeducated, and I mean more complaining. This scene goes on for a full page. I will say I found Violet very whiny in the early chapters, so much so that I wrote this in the book. She does get better the longer you read, but my dear lord, I wanted to throttle her. In Minecraft, obviously. Cut to a flash forward within a flashback. Can you see why I got confused? Where Violet is at the milking farm for an orientation interview / meeting thing, and describes the other prospective... Why can't I say prospective right? And describes the other prospective new hires, including a green-skinned woman, a troll, and a rabbit man, which sounds like the start of a very bad joke. None of these NPCs get names, don't worry about it. Violet also makes mention she's the only human at this orientation, but expected, and I simply asked why. Why? Why is she the only human? Is this because she's Bethel? Oh god, she's gonna be Bethel, isn't she? Ugh. Don't worry, it doesn't get explained. Get used to me saying that. She talks about where the facility is, a fictional suburb called Cambric Creek that boasts a multi-species population. Now, I have no issue with this, but give me a reason why. Why are there multi-species other than for plot to happen? How did they come to be? No pun intended there. Is this what happens when human and animal breeding goes unchecked? I need answers. Don't worry, it gets explained never. We then get a great description of the actual facility, and what began as a joke, but soon became my emotional support pillow, or emotional moo, if you like. Moo! 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 Thankfully, the barnyard theme isn't followed through the entire facility. I may have had an aneurysm if the milking station was themed. More on that later. We're introduced to another unnamed female, a Tefling. Yes, from D&D. I'm not sure that's what they wanted you to use their characters for, but we'll not talk about that, shall we? And it was also at this point that I realised they had tails, and may have got a little bit excited. The spade-tipped... They have tails. A spade-tipped tail swishing behind her. They have tails. Of course they're going to have tails, Flegman. Why wouldn't they have tails, Flegman? They've got tails. They've got tails. Oh my god, does the fox lady have a tail? The fox woman needs to... But she better have a tail. I genuinely have no idea why I got so excited over the idea that they had tails. I think it was the idea of the fox woman having a tail. Or Jennifer, as I called her, because she doesn't get a name either. Where was I? Sorry. Violet's talking about still not understanding what the job would entail, and I was confused because I hadn't realised we were still in a flashback, and I wrote this about poor old Mrs. M. We're introduced to Fox-like Foxwoman again, who is described differently yet again, saying features of a fox. So are we talking ears? I mean, tail confirmed, I believe. I don't know. I want more backstory. The Fox-like Foxwoman talks more about the facility and the specimen they will be collecting, and Violet basically has to grip her chair for reasons. Her inner monologue starts talking again here. A plentiful speedy collection? What does that mean? What do the Minotaurs have to do with anything? Oh, I have no idea. No idea, inner monologue. Did I mention she has an inner monologue? Yeah, she has an inner monologue. And I honestly cannot stand inner monologues in a story. It's clunky and it's always overused. Just please stop it, writers. Stop it. Figure out a better way of getting your character's thoughts portrayed. Violet still, again, has no idea what the job entails, and I'm honestly starting to question where she got her degree from, especially when I read this part. And she'd been very nearly able to convince herself that she'd imagined seeing a quick glance of a rounded backside and swishing tail. But there could be no question a moment later when a semi-erect Minotaur appeared through the opening beside the woman's head. It's like, what do you mean? There's a Minotaur in front of you. What were you expecting to see? Hey, you in the back row, stop being rude. That comes next. The fox-like Foxwoman then goes on to grip the Minotaur's bullhood and, as the book says, starts milking. We're now out of the flashback, thankfully, and back to the present, where the story started, with a sentence that took me 3 attempts to try and read before I realised why I was having trouble. That human men placed an enormous importance on their dicks was no surprise. What? That human men placed an enormous importance on their dicks was no surprise to her. Why does that sound wrong? The fact that human men placed an enormous importance on their was no surprise to her. I didn't read that wrong. It's missing it's literally missing the fact. This is a published piece of literature. It was missing 2 words at the beginning of the sentence. I'm dyslexic and I picked up on that. Speaking of the next paragraph, this is what solidified it for me that the author was a raging feminist. Let's go over it, shall we? The whole world seemed to be designed for... Is it though? Or is it designed more specifically around sex in general? What about all the things that are designed with women in mind? Women-only spaces? Oh wait, hang on a minute, we're not allowed to talk about them, are we? Offices that were too cold. Put on more clothes then. You know, like your male counterparts have to. Do you know what it's like actually having to wear a full suit, a man's suit, not a woman's suit, because they're made with lighter fabrics? They get hot. So yeah, officers tend to be cooler so your colleagues don't pass out. Seatbelts cut across the neck instead of sitting comfortably across the chest. You are aware seatbelts are adjustable, right? As a short ass myself, I have to adjust seatbelts all the time. It's very simple to do. Medicines that had only ever been tested on one segment of the population. Now this one is the most egregious of them. Because I'm sorry, Karen, it's a little bit hard to test prostate treatments on women now, isn't it? Some medicines really do just need to be tested on one gender. Like, I'd be very confused if tampons had been tested on a man. Anyway, this paragraph is basically there to set up for what the facility actually does with the specimens they collect. It gets sent away to make Viagra for human men. This is obviously a clear call to Viagra having bull genitals in its ingredients list. Yes, that is true. So basically, Violet has to decide whether or not she actually wants to take the job, and we're given this beautiful line here. The beaming foxwoman in the video off Minotaur after Minotaur. Huge, hulking bullmen resting comfortably against the padded breeding stocks. I actually managed to say that without laughing. I'm impressed. We're also given a very descriptive description of what a Minotaur looks like, especially next to measly human. The Minotaur's girthy members vaguely resembled their human counterparts, but there was no comparing their size. Their were long and impossibly thick, riddled with veins with prominent dome-like heads. Descriptive. And all I could think of was, that's gonna hurt. A human vajayjay is actually only around 3 to 4 inches in depth, 5 to 6 when you're fully aroused. Like, where do you think you're going to be putting the rest of that? Like, women have these things called a cervix, and you ain't getting past that. And as a woman, well, at least last time I checked, I can tell you, hitting the cervix hurts a lot. Don't believe the porn you're watching or reading in this case. And for the love of all things degenerate, please do not describe as bubblegum pink. Blech. While others were bubblegum no, just no, don't, no, don't, no, it's not, no, don't describe it as bubblegum pink, please, no. We also get a description of the milking machine, and it's literally a milking machine, like you'd find on a dairy farm. Now, I certainly don't remember that working on the farm. Oh, and we get this beautiful line as well. Sure enough, the big bull grunted and jerked, lowing deeply as the machine did its work. He moos. He actually moos. Moo! Violet has some more inner monologue here, trying to convince herself that what she's doing isn't, as she puts it, lewd, vulgar, and inappropriate. And I'm sorry, but it kind of is though, isn't it? If you have to convince yourself as much as Violet does throughout this entire book, then it's safe to say what you're doing is probably lewd at the very least. We talk about coffee a little bit too much here, and we also find out the root cause of Violet's poor funds. She's bad with money! She's literally down to her last $20, and she still decides to go to the overpriced coffee shop and buy a coffee and a pastry. That's what you get for going to hipster baristas. Buy instant coffee and drink it at home. There's nothing wrong with it. Be a peasant like me. But sure, it's men's fault that you're having to work at a milking farm. By the end of the chapter, Violet has decided that she will take the job, and not just that she'll take the job, but that she'll be good at it too. She was going to be good at this, Violet decided, dragging the cursor back to zoom in on the technician's hands. You'll be finding out soon enough, she thought, ignoring the tingle between her thighs as she turned out the light. Like, well, that took a quick turn. Literally 2 pages ago. Oh no, I don't know if I want to do this. Sexy idea. Whiplash! Whiplash! Now, if I got confused in chapter 1 of who was talking, chapter 2 broke me. So, Violet is shadowing someone. It's another female. They don't need names. We learn that Violet is a perfectionist and a bit of an overachiever. And she talks about Cambric Creek a little bit more. And I had another breakdown. As she navigated her way through the picturesque town square with its gazebo and waterfall, an expanse green park. Waterfall in a town square. How? I still cannot visualise this waterfall in the middle of the town centre. I'm so confused. I want to say she meant water fountain, but it's always called a waterfall and it's described later and it's described as a waterfall, so I don't know. We're introduced to a family of moth people. A family of moth people... Oh yeah, I forgot... I forgot we were in multi-species, aren't we? I think Mothmen? Hang on, what? And for a smut book, children are mentioned rather a lot. And not in a bad way, obviously, just like, passing glances, and when Violet decides that she wants to talk about if she wants kids or not. We'll get into that. But it just, I don't know, in a smut book, it gives me the ick a little bit. I don't know why. No, maybe I do know why. It's probably because I know what women are doing when they're reading this, and it's like, don't bring kids into it, please. It's weird. It's just weird, okay? It's weird. As she watched, the roly-poly baby was tossed in the air by the bespectacled Mothman, peals of squealing infant laughter meeting her ears through the open window as the flailing bundle was gone. Jesus Christ, how far did he throw it? And yeet! I'll come back for you in a minute. And down you come. This is also when Violet starts talking about Mothman that used to live in her block of flats. Apartment complex. Sorry. And how he was strangely attractive and had impossibly long fingers. And I just wrote this in my book. We're also given this rather ominous line right here, and famous last words indeed. This is a nice place, and they wouldn't have a business that wasn't completely on the up and up, operating out in the open. Creepcast, is that you? Why do I hear Baroska in the background? I genuinely believe that we were going to have like a Creepcast moment and like have like Baroska or something where we were going to be going somewhere real dark. Spoiler alert, we're not, unfortunately. Would have been one hell of a plot twist if it was. We now go into a lot of detail on the queening requirements. Sorry, I lost the ability to say my R's there. The cleaning requirements and different protocols. Still have no idea who is talking to Violet at this point, and I genuinely thought we were being introduced to another female character, but we weren't. It's not that common an occurrence. The other woman, there's two? Or is it the same woman? We also learn that Violet may be highly educated, but she is rather dim, because it takes a rather long moment to figure out what a bigger mess means. As at this point I was like, are you sure you're 26? She's 26, by the way. It came up in one of her inner monologue rambles. Anyway, we finally learn who has been speaking all this time to Violet. Well, we get a description. What, did you think we were going to get a name? Don't be silly. We don't get names. I'm surprised Violet has a name. We now get 2 pages going into great detail about the milking machines, again, along with what the breeding benches look like. As the book describes it, it's an inverted massage chair with a glory hole in the middle of it. We also have this glorious sentence: identical to those used on traditional dairy farms. And you all thought I was joking earlier. Nope, identical to traditional dairy farms. We then have another talk about how it's definitely not work, and just the same as milking a snake meant for venom. And I was going to ask how they do that, but knowing this series, it's probably actually the same, and still lewd. The book really does go to length to try and convince the reader what Violet is doing is completely normal, and in no way work. Doth protesteth too mucheth, methinketh. Now, I actually like this bit of world building. It's not just being horny, it's a medical handicap. That's what he said. Being a heat helper is a real job, you know. It's a natural thing that would occur in humanoid people, and drug companies would totally have drugs and other enhancements for that sort of thing. I just wish we got a little bit more world building. I don't care how the machine works, I get it, I've worked on a farm. Give me more world building about the species. I mean, we get told about seasonal assistant positions, and I want to know more about it. I can't believe I'm actually saying that about this book. Violet's in a monologue says, no different from drawing blood. And if I'm honest, I think there's a big difference between this and drawing blood, but they're okay. So after that, her and the other woman go on break, and Violet ends the scene saying, sounds good to me, I'm ready for it. The next scene opens with the narration saying, she was not, in fact, ready for it. And I simply wrote this in the book. We're now into the good stuff. That's not a very good way of explaining it. Anyway, Violet gets to see her first Minotaur, up close and personal. We're treated to a delightfully detailed description of a Minotaur's His entire body was covered in a spotted short-haired hide of sable and cream, and his long member bore the same markings Violet saw once he lowered himself onto the bench. The spots of his shaft were interrupted by several thick veins, the markings fading as her eyes travelled up the stiff length, her mouth running dry at his wide mid-shaft swell, ending in a light pink head the size of her fist. If I had to read that part, then you lot had to hear it too. We're still not finished with talking about bullcocks just yet, mind. We have this glorious line here. I'm ready to burst as it is. This is 2 days build-up. To which I just wrote, delightful, in the book. I also broke down a little bit during the React read-through of this part because I just couldn't stop laughing. But the Minotaur above didn't seem to mind, letting out a deep bellow. Moo. You know... you know that's what I like. Oh no! Oh no! What am I doing? What the f*** am I reading? Where was I? Let me do that again without laughing. Oh no. I'm turning into a bunk, turning into a cow. No, move. Oh dear, right, I'm back. Oh, by the way, if it's not noticeable, I annotate my books. No, I don't care if you have an issue with that. It's my book. I'll do what I want with it. Thank you very much. We go into descriptive detail about how the technician with no name gives the Minotaur a hand job. No, I'm not repeating it. And how the Minotaur starts humping the breeding bench. Not remember, guys. It's not a job, remember. Oh, another writer's tip as well. The words squelch or squelching are not sexy words. They're just not sexy sounds either. Please pick another word for the love of Christ, please. The Minotaur then grunts, "Get ready, new girl." And we go into far too much detail about bull, which may or may not have set my gag reflex off. A wet thread of his We can do this. We can do this. We can do this. A wet thread of his pre-release clinging obscenely to the lip of the silicon before it was worked over his shaft fully. Have I actually mentioned what the bull is actually collected in? I don't think I have. It's collected in milk bottles. Sterilised, obviously, but old-fashioned milk bottles all the same. Old-fashioned glass bottles, the kind she'd seen in roadside country store. Don't bring milk into this. And the most perverse detail of the farm's aesthetic in her opinion, and mine too. We're introduced to the term earners, which, as the book says, these are the clients that can account for every drop. The chapter ends with this line, which isn't meant to be funny, but a wrong use of word makes it absolutely hilarious. Squaring her shoulders, Violet double-fisted, no, the cleaning nozzles like a cowboy. That is not the word that is meant to be used there. And please, please, please do not fist your cleaning nozzles. It's likely to hurt. On to chapter 3, and the other females are finally given names. Huzzah! The technician that Violet was shadowing, or is still shadowing, should I say, is called Kareem. And I got real confused when her name was just dropped. Like, we should have all known it from the start. We're also introduced to a few new concepts, them being the clock watchers, the casual clients, and, the good little cows. Now, I'll explain what they are, because the book doesn't decide to explain it for another page. But basically, the clock watchers are the Minotaurs that like a quick, efficient pump and dump. The casual clients are exactly that. And the good little cows are the Minotaurs that like to push the fantasy of being milked. It's a thing for them, as the book says. But it's not work, right, guys? You believe me that it's not work, right, guys? We also talk about the type of scrubs that they have to wear, which leads them into talking about the good little cows, because some of them like themed scrubs. There's denim overall print and an alpine milkmaid print. I you not. Violet and the other girl, Kareem, talk about inappropriate behaviour, and we get this beauty of a line. You get the occasional client who wants you to lick it. Violet tries to convince us, herself I'm not sure on that she doesn't want to be any part of these men's fantasies. And I simply wrote this in the book. We're introduced to another term, the pop and go bulls, who are full of swagger and crude comments, but finish rather quickly, and their bravado gets sucked up along with their... We got some more tonal whiplash again here, as we're suddenly talking about taxes and Violet's earnings. We also have more evidence that Violet is terrible with money. We're tucked into bed, scrolling through the home decorating site and recipes featuring luxury ingredients. This is why you're poor. Honestly, even if she could get a job in her chicken tickling degree, that did pay well, I still think she'd be in debt. I genuinely do think she'd still be in debt. Her inner monologue also says this: "You're going to be great at this." And all I could think of was, no, I don't think you will if you go buying expensive vegetables every day. Anyway, we're finally introduced to the male love interest, Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man himself. That's my name for him because we don't learn his name until way, way, way later. This author really doesn't like naming her characters at all, or at least not straight away at least. This author also really doesn't like using full stops, or periods for you Americans. So I'm going to read this next sentence, and I want you to remember that this is just one sentence. All of her training, all of the videos, and the checklists, and the handbook she memorised backward and forward, her confidence over the morning of her first week, the excitement over her future financial sovereignty, and the fantasy shopping trips she'd taken in her mind, the promise of savings in her bank, and the certainty that she'd be good at this job, it all dried up, blowing away like a scatter of leaves in an autumn breeze, leaving her legs as wobbly as a newborn foal as she entered the collection room at the other girl's encouragement. That was one sentence. Writers, please, for the love of God, learn how to use full stops. Please. That was one sentence. What did full stops ever do to you? How did they hurt you? Did they kidnap your parents? Is that what it is? Honestly, full stops are your friend. Also, Kareem loses her name privilege and has reverted back to the other girl. Back to Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man, and a long descriptive paragraph or two about his appearance, horns and all. He's described as a clock watcher, and Violet thinks this cliched line, maybe he'll be different. Because of course he's going to be different. All love interests aren't like the others, regardless of gender. Or species, in this case. He also has the thickest she's ever seen, followed by this terrible line. There's a prime beef joke to be made here, I just know it. We get a better, not sure if that's the right word, description of Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man and his including it's pink. And we get 3 pages of description of Violet giving a bull a handjob. And Violet also gets rather turned on from giving said bull a handjob. And she knew it was inappropriate to feel a thrill over forcing a reaction from him, and even less so to register that thrill directly between her thighs. You dirty bitch. A tingle that ignited when he repeated the motion. There's also more evidence that Violet is most certainly a size queen. His had stiffened fully by then, a cord of steel within the solid length, and Violet marvelled silently at his girth. Telling you, size queen. Size queen she is. It wasn't the biggest she'd seen over the course of the past week, but it was by far the thickest, fat and heavy in her slick hands. The fox-like foxwoman with no name that I named Jennifer comes back briefly, while Violet describes Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man's bulb being the size of large oranges. Determined to do things right, before raising her hands to the huge each one was the size of a large orange. Jesus Christ. They may also be magical, as Violet seems to get hypnotised by them. But she was hypnotised by the way his heavy throbbed when as he came. Each spurt of his into the milking machine, originating beneath her fingertips. So, Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man finishes, Violet gives him a very intimate washdown, and sends him on his merry way, with no time to reflect on the tingle between her thighs. There was no need to reflect on the tingle between her thighs. It's not though, right, guys? It's not she doesn't think it's though, right, guys? The rest of her shift goes by in a whirl, her words, not mine, and the scene ends with this glorious line. Unable to assuage the itch between her legs that desperately needed scratching. Sounds like you might have an infection, pets. We get a little time hop to Violet at home, pining over Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man, and we get a full page of her flicking the bean. Once it's over, her inner monologue has this to say: "What the f*** was that?" And I couldn't agree more with her at this point. She debates why she's been so affected by Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man, and says this: "It made no sense." Yeah, you've got that right. "It was completely inappropriate." Yeah, you've got that right too. And again, I couldn't agree more. I'm telling you, it's magical. It's magical bull. Chapter 4 begins with this classic bit of advice. If a job's worth doing, it's worth doing well. Highly agree, yes, thank you. It also reiterates the character trait of Violet being an overachiever, going over a few examples of this. At this point, she's been at the farm for about 3 weeks, and we are introduced to a new random female character. But unlike poor Kareem, this one actually gets a name straight away. I don't know what it was about poor Kareem that meant she didn't get a name for like a full chapter after she was introduced, while this one gets a name straight away. Hashtag justice for Kareem. At the beginning of Violet's shift, she gets a request. I wonder who that could be from. And we get a long explanation of what requests are. Basically, a bull can request a certain technician if they do a particularly good job milking them. So basically, she has a terrible shift, with her second client bull-splaining the milking machine to her when she couldn't get the milk bottle to go in place. I am, she gritted, not needing the extra sugar baby sweetheart bull-splaining that. Oh my god. You see, Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man is totally different to the usual bull man. He's stoic. And stoic. Okay, that's all we actually know about him so far, but that's about to change. He unlocks a new character trait in a little bit. I also simply wrote this in my book at that line. So by the time it comes to her request client, Violet is a bundle of nerves. And guess who it is? Yeah, it's Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man. Who else was it going to be? He basically asks how old she is before he even lets her touch him. It's not quite that tactless, but that's the gist of it. We get another handjob scene, with Violet getting very aroused. The weight of his cock was delicious. The weight of his cock was a delicious heft, heavy and solid in her hands, as she began stroking his shaft from root to tip, while Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man gets also very and hums her hands, basically. She wondered if this was what it would be like to be by the big bull. I'm amazed I said that without laughing. She also teases him. I thought I wrote tastes him there. I was thinking, no, she doesn't. She also teases him with the milking nozzle. What the is wrong with you? Just finish him off and be done. I agree in a monologue, I agree. Hold my hand in a monologue, we'll get through this. That was her inner monologue, but I couldn't help but agree immensely with her inner monologue right now. So once that has happened, we get another description of Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man and Violet admitting this. She'd never dated a non-human before, but it was impossible to deny that this Minotaur was exceedingly attractive. I'll take your word on that, sweetheart. They banter a little bit, and then he leaves, and like most of the story now, the chapter ends on Violet at home going to town on herself while thinking about Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man, and realising her pitiful is entirely too narrow now. She wondered if he would still be as assertive as he keeping his composure and rutting her slowly as she melted into a puddle beneath him. Oh dear Lord, no. Chapter 5 starts with another phone call with her mother, which I must say my voice work during my read-through of this was just impeccable. Pumpkin, I'm just so happy to hear you found something and you're doing well. You do know we worry about you all alone up there in the city. I also have a little rant about luxury vegetables again at this point, and then once again when expensive coffee came up again. How many times can I say again in that sentence? Luxury vegetables shouldn't be on the list either. You're meant to be saving. But never mind. We go back and forth between scenes of Violet at the coffee shop, milking a young bull, and talking with her mother. It's a rather interesting combination. We also get a rather large grammar error, and by the looks of it, missing the beginning of the sentence. Just enjoy my crash out about it. What the fuck? There's a typo here. It's just a comma. That she'd done stomping back to the locker room that morning, coated in a ridiculous amount of bullman's. I have no idea what. There was clearly meant to be something else there, maybe even a full complete sentence, but there isn't. Never mind. Her mother then brings up Violet's old high school sweetheart and tells her that he's gotten divorced and is back living at home. He's a completely off-the-page character, but he gets brought up a few times, so I thought I'd mention him here. Her mother basically wants her to move back home and settle down with him, and Violet is having none of it. Violet didn't need to tax her imagination to picture the smug look she knew had crossed her mother's face, the same one she always assumed when she thought she'd come up with a fantastic idea, regardless of how ill thought the idea actually was. I also got slightly offended by this line here. Divorced by 30 and needs to move back home, as if that's something to aspire to. Hey, I take offence to that. Actually, technically, I'm a widow, actually. I didn't get divorced. My husband died. God, that makes it sound ominous. Back at the milking farm, and Violet is fantasising about Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man just before his appointment. You know, as you do. His appointment comes, and they subtly flirt, and I had to agree with her inner monologue again at this point. Hey, this isn't a job, remember? Exactly, thank you. Thank you, inner monologue. Thank you. It's like, yes, true, you've been trying to convince us all of that it's not. Stop getting all around by it. Or just maybe, admit that it is a bit of a job. No, we can't do that now, can we? Moving on. We also find out that Violet is a sucker for authority. Her words, not mine. She talks for a while about his hooves, and I broke down during my read-through. There was a lot of emotional mooing, let's just say that. Her inner monologue and I agreed at this point once again, when she thinks, it's one thing to get off thinking about his junk. You don't need to wind up with a crush. That's completely unprofessional. Yes, inner monologue, agreed. I do agree. Everything about this is inappropriate. They talk about other facilities in the area, and Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man talks about beating one off in the shower, which excites Violet. I did have this to say during my React read-through. Dating tip, men, don't do this. Don't do this. Please don't do this. I can tell you now, 9 times out of the 10, this will not work. And the 9th time, and on the 10th time, and it does work, you should really be running away. Violet is a very peculiar species of human. This doesn't usually work. We also get a little bit more world building that I actually wanted to know more about, like Blinksy World. What the hell is Blinksy World? Is this a Disney knockoff? What is a Blinksy? I need answers. I want to know. Violet fantasizes, once again, this time about being impaled by Minotaur. No joke. Unless she was impaled on his face. Death by snoo. Death by snoo. There's also this line here that made me chuckle. Well, I can't say I have many conversations with Minotaurs. It's like, yes, me too. By the way, we're still flirting and fondling bull. Just thought you ought to know.
Thought you ought to know.
Now, I've got a little fun fact for you here. Did you know the word decadent used to mean deceased or decay before it was switched to mean luxury? I didn't, until I saw Rachel Wilson's post about it, about her air fryer manual. So now whenever I see the word decadent, I think of the old meaning, and it makes reading this far, far funnier. Like the last time, he was completely hanging stiffly above like a particularly decadent, juicy-looking fruit. A deceased fruit? Yeah, I'm not sure many people know this, but decadent was actually meant decaying and rot before it became a word for luxury. The more you know. We talk about how the facility gauge production ability. They measure their and Violet compliments him on his big and plays with them for a little bit. Violet also asks if the other facilities touch their clients like they do, feeling slightly jealous at the idea that someone else might be touching her bull. She didn't like the prickle of jealousy that twisted in her stomach at the thought of someone else milking him, stroking his girth and making him groan. He requested her, after all. He was her client. Your big bull. Moo. 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 Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man tells her that the farm is the only one that offers a personal touch, and they flirt a bit more with him saying she has perfect tiny little hands. And I broke a little bit at this point. That, and you do have those perfect tiny hands. No, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop flirting. I mean, don't stop flirting, but stop flirting. I also may have laughed a little bit too hard at my joke during my read through too. I couldn't think of a single way it could be any more to my liking. I mean, she could sit on you. Violet fantasizes yet again about being ploughed, pardon the pun, by him, and at this point I'm thinking she may have a little bit of a problem. I also agreed with her in a monologue, once again. We're going to have such a lecture when we get home tonight. It's like, yes, I agree, me too. Once he's finished, by the way, that was all still while we're touching bull, by the way. Once he's finished, he asks her where she went for coffee. She mentioned during their flirtations earlier that she went for coffee, and he tells her to go to the Black Bean instead, as that's the one he goes to too. We get a bit of a time skip with Violet at home, moping around, thinking about Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man, that she should call her mother, and completely getting the ick from thinking about coffee with Carson. That's the divorcee from up the street her mum wants her to date. The chapter ends with Violet realising why she's so mopey for. She wouldn't be seeing Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man for an entire week. Whatever will she do? To him probably, like usual. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 starts us off in the Black Sheep Beanery, which is owned and ran by sibling sheep people. It's basically your typical overpriced hipster joint. Violet is a little nervous, as she's the only human in the place, but swoons when a seemingly human is in front of her in the queue. That is until he turns round and she realises he's not human at all. I'll spoil it for you, he's a werewolf, but you don't find that out until like chapter 10 and 11, I can't remember. She finally orders a drink, some frothy latte thing that sounds far too sweet for my liking. Is this the first time you've been here? The woman behind the counter asks kindly. Meh. The honeycomb latte is the most popular thing on our menu. That's what I'd recommend. It's our house espresso roast, and a honeycomb comes from our local farms. I'll stick with me Tetley's tea bags, thank you very much. I had a wee breakdown here when she mentions how expensive her drink is again. It's what you get for going to hipster baristas. Buy instant coffee and drink it at home. There's nothing wrong with it. Be a peasant like me. Anyway, Violet is basically press-ganged into joining a random British woman for drinks. I want to say her fear response here is terrible, but I'll be honest with you, I'd probably end up doing this too. The British woman is a vampire and has a name I could not pronounce, so I simply called her Gilly. I gotta say, I actually do enjoy Gilly's character, even if she is a little cliched on the British slang. So much so, I turned pirate a little bit at one point. She pirate now or something, Jesus Christ. Grr. Gormless Muppet is me true love. She also explains about her job at the vampire restaurant, Le Leve Rouge, if I remember it correctly, where she bleeds people for gourmet foods, basically, and nonchalantly drops the fact that some of them like to have a while they're being bled. It's being a feeder bleeder. A feeder bleeder. A feeder bleeder. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, my imagination went somewhere completely different. No, moving on. Feeder bleeders, as they're known, and a well-known within the community, apparently. But it's not sexual, right, guys? Violet tells Gilly that she works at the farm and what she does for a living. You know, Minotaurs. And Gilly delivers this terrible pun from earlier. I bet that's some prime beef you get to manhandle. Oh, no, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Chapter 7 broke me a little bit, and the emotional support moves weren't helping anymore, so I had to break out Freddy Five Bears to sit with me. No, hang on, no. Fredbear, I need Fredbear. Come back, Fredbear. Come on, be my emotional Fredbear, please. Yep, you sit there. I know you don't want to listen to this, but I don't care. If I have to listen to it, so do you. It starts with one of the Minotaurs being extra vocal while Violet milks him. Clearly there for the tug job. We also get this delightful line here. Being on the receiving end of that would be like getting a root canal for the delightful. Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man is back again, and we get a little bit more info about him. Are you ready? That he's as heavy as her car and over a decade older than her. And while I do have something to say about her opinions on what are, quite frankly, societal conditioning, I had a bigger breakdown on the clear prejudice Violet has over generic orange juice. 3 months ago, you had to buy gas station coffee and generic orange juice. What is wrong with generic orange juice? Stop it! Do you want to know how these? Do you want to know how these bulls become successful? It's because they buy the generic orange juice at the beginning. It's only when they've made the money and they've actually got the disposable income that they then decide to buy the branded orange juice. Stop living beyond your means, young woman. Sorry, rant over. But going back to what she says before my orange juice rant, Violet wondered if he would find her too young, if their disparate social positions would be a turn-off. And boy, did I have something to say on this during my React read-through. I need to pause for a minute, because society has generally taught women and men that just because you're at different levels of work or job or education, that means that one of you is better than the other. No, that's not how it works. If you honestly think that you're better than someone because you have a higher paying job than someone that's working at a cashier position, then that's a you problem. That's a you being pretentious and being a I'm sorry, there is no difference between a CEO and someone who's a janitor. Like, can we please get rid of these stupid ideas of power dynamics? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Violet talks about when she decided to have a detour around Cambric Creek and look at all the different houses in the neighbourhood. And we finally find out what her damn degree is in. It's in art history. I still think it's chicken tickling. She'd probably have a better chance of getting a job here if it wasn't chicken tickling. I can imagine that's a job within a multi-species population. We also start talking astrology in this chapter, which leads us to some rather interesting dating advice a little later in a couple of chapters. And Violet finally admits she has it bad. She had it bad. Yeah, I agree. I also just wrote this in the book as well. Back in the present now, at the farm, and Violet basically has 2 cancellations, but has a mini panic attack thinking she's going to get fired because of her inappropriate fantasies. And I absolutely lost it at this part. Violet, we know about your inappropriate fantasies. The janitorial staff has been notified of its snail trail left behind on your workbench. Please collect your thing. Oh, that made me chuckle. I like that. That was good. I like that. That was funny. Disgusting, but funny. So she messages Gilly and asks to meet up at the beanery for a cuppa. Now, can you guess what's going to happen in the next chapter? Are we going to have the cliched bump into each other and possibly a misunderstanding? What do you think? Chapter 8 has us back at the Black Sheep Beanery, with Violet in the queue once again. This time fantasising about what her and Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man's babies would look like. And I had to agree with her in a monologue once again here. Well, kind of. Okay, literally what is wrong with you? Your ovaries need to get a grip. You don't want kids for at least a decade, if ever. The person behind her starts talking on the phone, and Violet starts thinking that she's now imagining Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man's voice. Now your ovaries are imagining they hear him everywhere. I'll stop blueballing you all. It's Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man, and he basically buys her drink for her. We have a little flirty moment between the two of them, with Violet being very filthy, thinking about his tongue and what it would be like to be eaten by a bull. And I had many things to say during my read-through over how rough his tongue was. If it would be velvety smooth or textured and coarse, it'd be textured and coarse like a cow's tongue. They're rough as you wouldn't want that looking down there. God, that would hurt. We also find out what Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man's name is. finally, it's Rock. Though I don't know, I like Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man. Unfortunately, this is where we get the miscommunication trope. That would have been completely sorted out if they just spoke to each other. You know, the way that adults would have done it. Basically, one of the owners, the sheep woman, asks if Rourke and L'Oreal are coming to their block party. And instead of asking him who L'Oreal was right there and then, Violet automatically believes he's either married or has a girlfriend. This leads Violet to be petty and basically tell him she's on a lunch date. And they part ways with Violet feeling stupid. And yeah, because she is. A simple question would have prevented all of this. But no, we've got to go the childish cliché route now, don't we? She meets up with Gilly, who asks her who the delicious slab of meat was. And Violet tries to change the subject, asking if vampires can even use the bathroom, because that's where Gilly had just come from. But Gilly's having none of it, and puts this fantasy inside Violet's head. He quite gave me the shivers. Looks like the type that might enjoy taking you over his knee if you've been a naughty girl, if you know what I mean. She also turns into a pirate again at this point. Methinks the lady doth protest a bit too boldly, a bit too bloody much. Oh, she's turned back into a pirate. Methinks the lady doth protest a bit too bloody much. Chapter 9, and we're back once more at the farm for Mr. Mysterious. We're back once more at the farm for Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man, or Rourke if you prefer, milking time. They're a bit standoffish. Oh, I've turned into Sean Connery. Moneypenny. They're a bit standoffish with each other, Violet trying to keep her voice chip and breezy while she's dying inside. She asks about the ring in his nose, asking if it's a religious thing. He tells her it's basically a Minotaur's wedding ring. It's a wedding ring. God, how a speech impediment. He basically tells her that it's a Minotaur's wedding ring. Violet is devastated that this is likely the last time she'll see him or his but Rourke continues and tells her that he's been divorced for 2 years. She still believes that he must have a girlfriend, and when he asks about her lunch date, she antagonises him a little bit more by saying it was really nice. You know, such an adult thing to do. There's a bit more antagonising until turned into a chicken, turned into a turkey. There's a bit more antagonising until Violet blurts out, demanding to know who L'Oreal is. She's basically his neighbour, with a boyfriend. That isn't Rourke. L'Oreal is my neighbour. The words came out in a low growl, tinged with frustration, and she forced herself to reach out for the table to hold herself. His neighbour? Not wife or girlfriend. The neighbour? She lives next door. She's an elf. An elf with a huge orc boyfriend. I had to laugh at her inner monologue here as well. His neighbour. He was going to ask you to have coffee with him. You could have made out in the parking lot, but instead you pretended to have a date, and she's his neighbour. That's it. You tell her in a monologue. We also get the first piece of advice. We'll call it advice about your Capricorn lover. Rock's a Capricorn. I don't think I mentioned that earlier. Your Capricorn lover is prone to fits of jealousy and possessiveness. Piquing his jealousy is a good way to remind him to treasure his mate. As long as his feelings of security in the relationship are quickly assured. I'm not sure about that. Not sure about that. This is when Violet finally comes clean about who she was actually having drinks with, the British vampire, and they talk vampires for a little bit. With Violet feeling very giddy, finding out that her big bull is single. My words, not hers, for once. The chapter ends with Violet slowly, reverently, lovingly stroking his her words, not mine. I also wrote this in the book at this line as well. Chapter 10 starts again with another very vocal bull, and I had to have a moment with Fredbear again. Where's my Fredbear? Hang on, Fredbear, come back. Fredbear, I need my emotional Fredbear. Come sit with me, Fredbear. Thank you. Wait a minute, that didn't sound right. I also broke down at this line here. They booked and bellowed, stamping and scraping their hooves. against the stocks as if they were about to charge, begging to be milked like the cows they were. They're not cows, they're bulls. Cows want to be milked because they have milk in them. These are bulls. You don't want to be milking... Well, I was going to say you don't want to be milking bulls, but apparently Violet does, so... Moving on. We go into the obvious human book's words, not mine, and how ignorant Violet had been to it. Ignorant, oblivious, in need of a helmet or carer. You take your pick. Oh, that was mean. True, but mean. We also have some sort of flashback here because we're back in the beanery again with her and Gilly. And, you know, for someone who complains that she has no money and, like, is in, like, a lot of debt, she sure as hell manages to hit the hipster coffee joint that's extremely expensive. Quite a lot, though, doesn't she? I mean, I know coffee is very addictive. I myself have been addicted to coffee, but come on now. We also find out that there are a few humans living in I nearly said Camden there. That's the wrong place. Well, I mean, there's a few humans living in Camden. There's also a few monsters living there too. In Cambric Creek is what I meant, but they're all female. I wonder why. So then you move to a place like this, and it's all very clean and respectable, and no one ever lets on how they are to try something new, and it's only ever women. I wonder why. Fredbear, I need a cuddle. Give me a cuddle, Fredbear. I need an adult. We also learn that there's a species that I'm not even sure I'm allowed to say. But we do find out it has two... The book even calls it out that you can't say the name, but not before saying this beauty of a line. Not now that you've been DP'd by a sexy snake male whose name you can't even say. Yeah, I agree, I'm not allowed to say that name. Now, I know they are clearly meaning the snake's actual name, not the species, but I lost it through my read-through at this bit. You're all just a bit curious, just a little inquisitive. Come to a new place, try food you've never heard of, and then you find out there's a... Can I pronounce that word? Am I allowed to say that word? A nigger who sold you insurance last week has two... And obviously you're curious about that as well. Moving on. I have since learned that it is naga, but I still don't feel comfortable saying that word. I think my whiteness is showing. Oh, and we get another delightful sentence as well. So you're saying every human in town's only here because they want to be down by other species? Because, as the book says, it's every girl's fantasy to be by a big bad wolf. I mean... Moving on. Moving on. Though I must say Little Red Riding Hood would be a whole different story if that was the case now, wouldn't it? I bet there's a smut book version of Little Red Riding Hood, isn't there? Oh my, Grandma, what a big you have! Oh no! Sorry, I tickled myself with that. Moving on. We do have a point to this conversation, which is basically Gilling asking Violet if she's been rutted by her big bull yet. Again, book's words, not mine. We jump back to Violet in the milking room with the bull at the beginning of the chapter. I hate how much this jump books around. That's an interesting way of saying that. I hate how much this book jumps around. I don't mind jump cuts and flashbacks, but explain it, please. And for the love of all things holy, explain your flashbacks. Violet also tries again to say that her job isn't at all, and I agree with the British vampire pirate. Methinks milady doth protesteth too much. We then jump cut again to Violet being told she has a new girl shadowing her for the rest of the day, meaning she's going to be cooked with Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man receiving a tug job from the new girl instead of her. And she may just be a little bit jealous over this idea. She didn't think it was unreasonable to be upset, learning she was to have a shadow the entire day who would watch Watch as she milked bull after bull, seeing the marked difference in the way she would handle the last client's the way she would savour the time spent stroking him, or worse, she'd be the one doing the milking. Thankfully, though, the new girl? Thankfully, the new girl is absolutely at giving hand jobs. Maybe she's just bad at hand jobs. Wrong place of employment in that case. I mean, true. We get another flashback of when Violet went to the store and she sees another female human with a Mothman, who gives her a knowing look. Violet then fantasizes about her and Rourke going shopping. You know, the most sexiest of activities. This is basically set up for Violet talking about how she first thought being a human was going to be a handicap, but now sees it's unimportant, really. Now, before the flashback, Violet had asked the new trainee, who doesn't have a name, if she'd watched the training videos. If she'd watched the training videos. And now, after the flashback, the trainee answers, and I absolutely lost it at her response. She watched as the new girl wrinkled her nose in response to the question. Yeah, sort of. That lady's voice was so annoying that how dare you leave fox-like fox woman alone. She is best girl. How dare you? I seem to be very attached to fox-like fox woman we named Jennifer because she doesn't get a name. I don't know why, but I was very attached to her in my read-through. And Violet must have thought the same as me as well, because she has the most savage reply for her. Violet smiled woodenly, watching as the trainee gathered up the final chart of the day, bearing its purple sticker. Well, I'll be honest, you need to watch them again. Your technique is lazy, and you're not paying attention to the charts. She also uses this to basically be able to take over Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man's milking from the trainee. We also get more proof that their job is indeed with this line here. Why does it matter? I thought as long as they it's fine. If that were true, why would they need us? If you're going to slip the nozzle on 2 minutes after getting the clients in the chair, they could do away with our position entirely. Basically, she's talking to the trainee who's just saying, like, well, as long as they then why does it matter? And she's like, no, you should put in good work, and good work in this instance is being good at hand jobs for Minotaurs. Oh, dear Lord. Anyway, moving on. So we're now on to Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man's milking appointment. I know his name's Rourke, but I don't know, I like Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man. He tells her that he's going to get his nose ring taken out and that he's symbolically back on the meat market. They flirt a little and we get more questionable dating advice from the stars. Is a good way to remind your Capricorn lover to treasure his mate. No, don't pique jealousy, stop it. Stop it, that's not a clever idea. Violet's a bit disheartened at the idea that he might not be coming in to his usual Friday appointment. Oh yeah, it's Tuesday right now in this scene. I don't think I said that before. But he makes it well known he'll most certainly be back on Friday. I've been needing to masturbate more often lately. This weekend the urge was especially... And her inner monologue had this to say on the matter. Coffee and an argument with you on Friday, and then frantically beating off all weekend. Oh, poor baby. Dear Lord. We get more flirting with Violet saying this beautiful line when talking about his They definitely feel very full. We'll have to make sure we give them a good, deep milking today. Ew. 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 And we end the chapter with Violet hoping the new girl doesn't notice the affection she clearly has for this bull and his And you know, yeah, if that had been me in the new girl role, I'd have definitely noticed straight away. Like, as soon as we'd left that interrogation, as soon as we'd left that milking room, I would be interrogating Violet instantly. But saying that though, I'm a nosy bitch, so... Anyway, on to chapter 11. We start once again at the farm with a rather annoyed and nose-ringless Rourke. You try saying that 3 times. Violet's basically been gone for like 2 weeks and missed 2 appointments with him. She tries to put some distance between them because she still thinks it's a one-sided crush on her end, though I don't know why. Again, you see why I think she needs a helmet. I genuinely don't know how much more direct with her he'd have to be without saying, look, I really like you, can we go on a date please? Anyway, moving on. We have some more back and forth with Rourke saying the new girl left him chafed. Don't give me that. I can't believe you literally left me in the clutches of that amateur. I was chafed last time. Chafed. This is when we find out that poor Great Aunt Gracie, I've just realised why I have such a hard time saying that. It's because the two G's. Great Aunt Gracie. Maybe I need the helmet. Anyway, basically, I was trying to say, Great Aunt Gracie has died, unfortunately, and that's why Violet has been gone. And I have to say, it's a little bit weird talking about her great aunt while she's also giving a bull a tug job. I should probably explain that a little better. She's not actually physically talking to Rourke about her great aunt, but we get flashbacks back and forth and go over Violet's relationship with her great aunt, and then flash forward to her talking to him about his chafe bits. And I don't know, it feels a bit weird. I don't really want to be thinking about her great aunt while you're doing that, thank you. Quite frankly, I don't think you should be thinking about your great aunt while you're doing that either. Before this, we get a description of another bull's and it's described as a tentacle. And I lost my mind at the description and mental image I had in my head. Like a writhing tentacle. oh no. I'm sorry, I don't know why that tickled me so much. Tickled by a tentacle. Violet then tells Rourke about the bull with the tentacle, saying he was new and didn't know what he was doing. He literally had no clue. I had to instruct him how to take his pants off, show him how to get onto the chair. And all I can think of that is, I don't think that's foreplay. This conversation shouldn't turn you on. Never mind. We then get a lovely description of Violet milking this bull and how he ended up getting most of his precious seed on her than in the milk bottle. Rourke then complains that Stiff Grip Sally almost circumcised him, so Violet handles him very gently, and we get a whole lot of her describing his bulk and what it might be like to suck it, beckoning her tongue to lick away the she would enjoy... beckoning her tongue to lick away the pearlescent moisture at its winking slit. We also get this beautiful line here. His heavy would hit her skin with every thrust, the percussive slap of them an obscene music that would fill the room, fat and full to bursting, as he f***ed her into the mattress, chasing his release and making her see stars. I'm sorry, but he'd split you in half, sweetheart, he would. Violet basically goes back on her previous thought of staying professional, yet again, and finally admits to herself that she's missed him while she's been away, and she does mean him, not just his but she has also missed that as well. She'd missed him so much, and seeing him, talking with him, flirting with him, hearing the sharp bark of his voice, and feeling his reverberation down her back, felt like coming home. She starts fantasizing again about how they would cuddle in bed and make breakfast together, feeding each other, but ends the sentence like this. But first, he would her until they were both satisfied, filling her with spurt after spurt of his extremely valuable seed. All the while she's jerking him off, by the way. Sorry, milking him. She also gives his prostate a little tickle too. Not by slipping a finger up his butt, thankfully, because that really would have been a breach of policy. And privacy. He finally finishes and says this. I feel like I should have paid for that. Flirting, ladies and gentlemen. Flirting. Though I did have this to say during my React read-through. I think you may have me. You sure are bossy for a corpse. Alright, I like that, that's funny. What can I say? I'm a sucker for the grumpy, cheerful dynamic. I think it's cute. I also lost it once again over the fact they have tails. Palming his tail. He's got a tail! Woo! He's got a tail! I think I found that I have a bit of a tail I think. As I've said before, I generally don't know what it was that made me so attached to the unnamed female fox-like fox woman and the idea of her tail. Or just the idea of tails in general. Is this where I find out I'm a furry? Now this next bit annoys me the more I read it. Basically, Rourke tells her that he missed her and wants to get to know her more. It's strange, he rumbled, adjusting his watch band, the picture of brusque professionalism. You see someone every week, you talk to them, they're a part of your routine, your schedule. They become part of your life. You share a certain level of intimacy with them. You miss them when they're gone. You can almost convince yourself that you know them, because you start to fill in the blanks on your own. But you never really know. You want to know what Violet thinks after he says this? He only knew her in the context of this place, and that wasn't likely to change. I give up. She does. She needs a helmet and a carer. She's no longer oblivious. Anyway, Rourke asks her why she's been gone, and when she tells him there was a death in the family, he asks her to go get coffee with him so that they can talk about it. And the chapter ends with this line. This is it. You can do it. Coffee first, then tomorrow you can lock yourself in his house and never ever leave. All right, psycho. It was, Violet was certain, a perfect plan. I'm going to start chapter 12 with the end. Or rather, my rant from the end, should I say. Hang on. 3 pages! Chapter 12 is literally 3 pages long. How many pages is chapter 13? Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, we've got 10 pages for chapter 13. How many pages did we have in chapter 11? Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. We had six in chapter 11. Chapter 12 didn't need to be a chapter. You could have just stuck that on the end of chapter 11. So yeah, chapter 12 is 3 pages long. Consistency, who is thou? So they're at the hipster coffee joint once again, and we find out that Rourke has a serious sweet tooth. See, I told you he'd unlock a new character trait. They sit and talk, Violet telling him about her great aunt, not his, and Rourke telling her about his childhood and the fact that his grandmother is human, or was human. I had yet another breakdown over Violet bashing generic orange juice and having a second-hand car. She drove a car that had belonged to her aunt, and I had a car that was my granddad's for a very long time. It was a very reliable car. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, orange juice is back. The same generic orange juice was still in her refrigerator. Oh, she's a fucking snob. God, dude, she's got me bloody swearing. She's got me annoyed. She's not a feminist. She's just a fecking snob, is what she is. And hey, guess what? Did you know Violet is a millennial? It's only mentioned 200,000 times. I'm a millennial. Being anxious and guilty is my birthright. I guess, right? But I do love it here. Oh, get over your self. I'm a millennial and I don't go on like this. There's nothing really happening in this very short chapter, but we do find out that there are some species that don't wear pants, and Rourke has this to say about it. Covering your ass in public should be the basic entry point for society, in my opinion. Rourke tells Violet that he missed her, and I may have melted at this point, and you were just a very intriguing question mark. I missed you, when you were gone. Aww. Aww. I like the romance in this, it's cute. I know it may not seem it, but I do actually enjoy the romance in this book. I just can't seem to get over the bull. It's a very large obstacle. He tells her that he wants to get to know her outside the farm and asks her out to dinner. Violet obviously says yes. Well, not without rambling first about if she said no, she'd probably never see him again. But as Violet says herself, but she'd always been a sucker for authority. She'd be helpless to say yes, just as she was certain his sheets would be cool against her back and his weight a comforting heaviness at her side. Bitch got it down bad! Now from a chapter that was only 3 pages long, and not much going on at all, to chapter 13, with 11 pages, and a shit ton going on. We start off with Violet on her kitchen table, naked from the waist down, and Gilly giving her a good waxing. Gilly also gives her this classic bit of dating advice. Take your knickers off in the loo. When you come back to the table, give your old bully boy a present. Violet does wonder if she's been subjected to some kind of vampire glamour, but her inner monologue sets the record straight. No, you didn't. You're letting her do this because you're a horny idiot. Yes, agreed, inner monologue. We agree again. Look at that. We agree. I also congratulated Violet here too for resisting the urge to go to a pricey salon. That sort of pricey salon service was definitely not in her budget. Oh, thank you. You figured that out, have you? Good. And praised her for learning that she doesn't need to splurge. That's Rock's job. Figuratively and literally. Oh dear. Anyway, as her inner monologue says, she's horny, and even while she's getting waxed, she's fantasizing about Rock, his and now his tongue. But lately, the notion of him bathing her... I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, sneeze. Sneeze, sorry. Oh dear Lord. But lately, the notion of him bathing her with his hot tongue was all she could think of, and her judgment had abandoned her. They've been on a few dates by this point. Yeah, this isn't their first date. I have no idea what we're on for the waxing. But anyway, Rock has been a gentleman, he hasn't initiated anything with her, and he's also stopped going to the farm at this point. And so it's safe to say that Violet is most certainly gagging for it at this point. But if the night didn't end with her screaming his name as she came around his Violet was certain she was going to perish from terminally unmet expectations. No, don't say that word. Don't do that. No. We do get their first date, but it's in a flashback while she's getting waxed. The timeline in this is more confusing than the FNAF timeline. Just a little less murdery and a tiny bit more sexy. I say that because we get a flashback within a flashback of Violet at the corn shop near her flat, and how it also stocks other species' type of foods and beverages. We find out more about Rox's ex-wife, that she's called Valina, and they basically drifted apart over their 5 years of marriage. We also go into far too much detail of Violet snooping around on social media, trying to find out more about Rock and his ex-wife, finding their wedding photos and the new woman Valina reinvented herself into. Still in the flashback of the first date, Rock walks Violet back to her flat, and we get this lovely description. His mouth was wider than those belonging to any of her previous partners, wide enough to engulf hers completely. I just simply wrote this in the book. Enough of that flashback and into their second date, I think, maybe. Anyway, they're meeting for pre-drinks before dinner, and we finally meet the mysterious neighbour L'Oreal. Rourke buys a kid's drink and sends it to her table so she'll walk over instead of him and Violet having to get up. Kind of understand that, because he did have to pick her up to place her on the very large stool, and knowing Violet, she might just fall off the chair and faceplant onto the floor. So L'Oreal is an elf. I can't remember if I actually said that already, and that's basically it. Anyway, enough of that flashback, because we cut forward to the now infamous scene where Violet tries to pay for her half a dinner. You know, to be a good feminist. But I had a lot to say about this section. She couldn't remember the last time she'd been out and hadn't paid her half, including her coffee date with Carson Tinsley, which accounted for how infrequently she went anywhere. So, what do you want then? What do you want? You're going to complain that, oh, well, I'm not a good feminist if I don't pay half, but then you're going to complain that you don't go out much because you can't pay half. Oh, women. Fucking women. Fucking women, aren't I right, Fredbear? Fucking women. We're a strange species, we are. I was also very confused by what a wristlet was. She had come prepared that night. Several weeks of her tips smoothed and tucked into her wristlet. What the fuck is a wristlet? The fuck's a wristlet? Oh, the bag, right, I get you. I'm clearly a fake female, aren't I? I don't know what a wristlet is. I was thinking, is that a strange word for a bracelet? Like, what? Clearly I'm a fake girl. I must give my girl pass away. Now, Rock's speech here when Violet offers to pay half is not too bad. Well, at least the first part. But the second part annoyed the shit out of me. Don't think I'm unaware that we're at different points in our careers. Oh, shoot me. I did laugh at this sentence, though. But if he had suggested at that moment that he would appreciate she would have fallen face first on his with an open mouth. Such a good feminist. Such a good feminist. I also lost the plot at this part as well. Drifting lower as he nibbled on her neck. It's the end of the date, and Violet is rather desperate for some bulk. But Rourke is still being a gentleman. He's going to be out of town for a few days, and her inner monologue is adamant that he'll want a BJ at least. Oh dear Christ! Is this what women think men are? I know they're sexy beasts and all that kind of stuff, but Jesus Christ, that they can control themselves. You know that, right? Men do understand how to control themselves. I know Mr. Minotaur here doesn't because he's a Minotaur, but men do know how to actually control themselves. But he doesn't give her the chance to offer. And Violet says she appreciated that he was waiting like a gentleman, really tries to convince us, or her, probably both, but she ends the thought with this. But the other half of her, the base animalistic side that thought of nothing but his which takes over quite a lot considering this book, and how it would feel erupting inside her, was ready to climb out of her skin. It's like, oh my word, just make up your mind. We get another flashback, or jump forwards. I've lost track a little bit on the way this chapter is structured, but Gilly tells her to send him nudes. Send him nudes. Feminism! Feminism, ladies and gentlemen! Take your clothes off. She doesn't quite go that far, but she does send him a naughty photo in a skimpy nightgown, then goes to town on herself while watching Minotaur. You know, as you do. Another time jump, and we're talking about how Rourke started his company. It goes, scrolling until she found a bull with similar colouring to him, and set to work rubbing circles against her aching as the human on the screen was taken from behind. So you started your business out of spite? So, no line break, no indication that we've moved on, nothing. It's just bam, whiplash. Anyway, we learn about Rourke's life a little bit more. He started right out of school with a company that distributed farm machinery and worked his way up to VP of sales. After the divorce, and when he moved to Cambric Creek, he waited out his non-compete clause and then started his own company. We also get more world building here too, talking about the founding families of Cambric Creek, which I actually enjoyed. Still don't understand the damn waterfall though. What about the waterfall? I need a description on this waterfall. Violet also talks about how she feels stuck in place and whines for like a power graph. It whines for like a power graph that basically boils down to her being horny. The chapter ends right back at Violet on the kitchen table getting waxed by Gilly, and Gilly says this beautiful line: "Once you've had your kitty licked like a bowl of cream." I don't know what makes it better, the British accent or... Yeah, no, it's the British accent, innit? Yeah. Violet also realises she's never seen him without his shirt on. Her inner monologue saying, "His shirt too. You've never seen him without his shirt on. He might have 6 nipples. It wouldn't matter if he did. Are you sure about that?" I think it might. The fact he's a cow hasn't put her off yet, so 6 nipples isn't going to either, is it? Oh dear. And she thought resolutely, more to love. Oh yes, all the nipples. Oh, and we also have this cringy line here. "Maybe it's time to take this bull by the horns." Now, if chapter 13 confused me in a literacy way, chapter 14 shattered my mind. You'll see why. So we don't even actually get into the chapter before I was confused. Hang on a minute. Who's talking? Who's talking? I don't know who's talking. I'm going to assume it's Rourke, for the simple fact of it's a he, and it mentions his sweet tooth. But his actual name isn't on the first 2 pages. Interesting. Okay. Firstly, it's not clear who's speaking, but not only that, we don't actually get the name of who Violet is talking with. And, I mean, I deduced that it was Rourke, but his name isn't mentioned at all until much later in the chapter. Anyway, Violet and Mystery Minotaur Man are eating dessert, and I got a bit of a jump scare by a word I wasn't expecting. Her mother would have had a conniption. A conniption? Are we Jewish? Nux, is this you? Nux and no, what have you been doing? It was you all along, wasn't it? What a plot twist would that be? Nux Nuxanor's the one who actually wrote all these monster smut books. I'm onto you, I know. For legal reasons, that's clearly a joke. Now, jokes aside, I do actually want to talk about this because it was something that I picked up quite early on in the book, and this pushed me over the edge, basically. Some writers, including this one, will use words to make them sound smarter. I'll add a few examples of what I mean. And she was nearly embarrassed by how quickly she unspooled under his ministrations. Oh, his fingers. Necessitate. Oh, yes, words, okay. Enough to need, stimulating its hidden sides as they locomoted back and forth, moved. Now, using big words isn't a bad thing. Not what I'm saying at all. But if the entire book isn't like that, dropping the occasional fancy word does quite the opposite of making you sound smart. It also just makes reading far, far more harder for people like me that can't read, apparently. Anyway, back to the story. They're talking about finding Violet a job in her degree field. I still think she should get a degree in chicken tickling. I'm sure there's demand for that at some point in Camden Creek. And we also learn that she has a substitute teaching license, but, and I quote, I'm also really terrible with kids, so not the best fit. This leads them to having a conversation about kids, and I've said this once and I'll say it again, don't bring kids into a smut book, please, it's a bit weird. Also, don't say what I said during my read-through, unless you have an explanation. Depends on the people, I suppose. Depends on the child. That sounds wrong. I have many children in my family because I have a big family, and a lot of them are all grown up now and having their own babies, and there's lots of kids around. Violet also comments about how she shouldn't even be asking about kids with Rourke or anything like that. And it's like, well, no, if you're getting into a relationship with someone, you should probably ask those major questions at the beginning. It's like, do you want to get married? Do you want to have kids? How do you want to have a proper, what kind of relationship do you want? Those are all things that you should be asking at the beginning, not 10 years down the line. You're doing it backwards, I'm afraid. Anyway, moving on. They're at another trendy hipster place, this time it's a fancy restaurant, where Violet's lack of is clearly taking control. After a bit more talk of finding her a job, Violet scoots over towards Mr. Mysterious Minotaur Man until he puts his arm around her. Can you tell where this is going? So she took Gilly's advice and went a step further and just decided not to wear underwear at all. And all I can think of is, where's the janitorial staff to clean this snail trail gonna be? So Mysterious Minotaur Man realises she's not wearing any underwear, and while Violet believes he's not going to do anything, he has other ideas. One of his thick fingers pressed into her heat, and her legs shot out, kicking at nothing. What do you do, electrocute her? Hassan, is that you? We basically get 5 pages. 5 pages. $5 a month. Oh dear. 5 pages of him finger banging her in the restaurant, for lack of better words. I also made this revelation too, roughly about this time, and she panted. Is that the noise that humans make? Cows go moo, humans go. Oh God, what does the fox do? Oh, no. What does the fox say?
What does the fox say?
Yip, 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 yip. Yeah, I tickled myself a little bit with that joke. Now, I'm no prude. I think that's a rather safe assessment of me. But I can't stand the language used to describe downstairs bits. It's not just in this book, it's in smut books in general. But this one is particularly egregious. We go from folds, to cleft, to mound, to straight up, and then back to folds again. I don't care if it's dialogue and it's established and that's their dirty talk, But when it's in narration, it's not just jarring. It shows you don't know how you wanted to write the book. It's like, if you're not afraid to use, like, the real words within the dialogue, then surely you should be okay with using the real words in the story, like, in the narration. Like, don't use it in don't use it in just dialogue and then turn to flowery prose afterwards. Like, pick a lane and stick in it. Or at least just be consistent with it. There's another writer's tip for you all. Anyway, back to the story, if we must. Mysterious Minotaur Man is going to town on her. Discreetly, I may add, and Violet has this to say. He was a bit of a bastard, but she probably wouldn't have been so hot for him in the first place if he wasn't. You bad feminist. Bad feminist. Go to your room, sit in the corner, think about what you're doing. I also laughed way, way too hard at her inner monologue here as well. I'm sorry, officer, I didn't mean to fillet this Minotaur in the middle of the dining room, but you see, he'd been playing so hard to get that I snapped. I like that. That's actually funny. But you see, officer, he's been playing so hard to get that I just snapped, and I had to take him on the dining room table. All right, in a monologue. That was quite funny, that. I'll give you that one. Though I do believe it was this moment that I cracked on my React read-through, all because of this line. Anytime she wants to be stuffed with my fat bull. Moo! Moo! We haven't had a moo in a while, have we? Moo! I'll be here to you so good you won't be able to remember your own name. I'm going to spoil you rotten, Violet. Sounds like you're going to split her in half too. Now, I know I made the joke about him having magic balls earlier in the earlier chapters, but at this point it was clear that he had a magic and that's why Violet was so obsessed with it. It did start as a bit of a joke, but you'll see what I mean when we get there. So he finishes her and goes right back to talking about the block party, and Violet says this. His ability to finger her in public and go right back to conversation about her job prospects without missing a beat was astounding. Is it? And then, of course, the waiter turns up a moment later, and I couldn't contain myself. Could probably smell her arousal over the half-eaten plates of food before them. Probably. Yes, he probably should. In fact, the entire restaurant can probably smell you, sweetheart. Violet invites Mysterious Minotaur Man back to her place because, as her inner monologue says, no sense in leaving everything to chance. He laughs and kisses her, and I had to read this line, so you do too. She wasn't quite used to the sensation of kissing a mouth with so different from her own. Understandable. One that didn't slot against hers like a puzzle piece, but his lips were unfailingly soft as they pressed against her, soft and insistent. Tongue just comes out. Yeah, again, as I say, if I had to read that, then you have to listen to it as well. So they go back to Violet's flat, and my lord does things heat up real quick. Not before she realises how massive he actually is, though. Her inner monologue made me chuckle with this line. It's all right, it's fine. He's going to find his place right here, between your legs. All right, inner monologue has just gone. She's gone. She's lost it. She's in hell now. We get some lovely descriptions and some lovely dirty talk with Violet telling him that she loves stroking his. He teases her a while, but ultimately puts his away, and Violet has a tantrum. Quite literally has a tantrum. She cried out when he tucked himself away, realizing he had the audacity to be serious. Whimpering as he did up his fly and rebuckled his belt, and her fists balled. Oh, she's going to fist you, boy. Careful. And her fists balled in frustration. I thought I was in charge. I thought I got to call the shots, Mr. Bossy. Now, normally that would probably have been a bit of a turn-off for most people. But no, not Mysterious Minotaur Man. He basically continues with this beautiful line. Sweetheart, I'm going to give you this so good you'll never be able to remember anyone else's. She won't be able to feel anything either. But that's not going to happen tonight. But I'm not going to do anything that might hurt you, and you're not ready to take my... You need to be prepped. Oh no. Oh my. Oh God. But for all the bossiness and being a bit of a bastard, Mysterious Minotaur Man is most certainly a gentleman. I can't promise you'll be walking right on Monday, but we're going to do things the right way and you won't get hurt. What a gentleman. Now we really get into the heat of the scene now, and it's finally revealed that Mysterious Minotaur Man has been Rock all along. She could hear, oh, look, we found his name. It's Rock. It is Rock. It's not just some random bull that she's found. We are literally 2 pages from the end of this chapter, and we're only now just figuring out it's Rock, or at least getting confirmation. We're getting confirmation that it's Rock. Like that, this could have been so easily sorted out by teaching. Rock said, there, and then carry on. Or if you didn't want to do that, teaching. She watched as Rock bobbed his fork back and forth. That is how you do it. Published fucking work. He sorts her out with his fingers and mouth. And out of it all, I need to talk about this line here. She keened as he suckled her. No. Babies suckle. Babies and baby animals suckle. No. That's another no word that we don't use in sexy times. No, he sucked her. He doesn't suckle on it. No. No. Turned into one of the alien Muppets. Nope. Yeah, please don't use the word suckling in sexy scenes. It's not giving the vibe you think it is. So after all that, he basically tucks her into bed and kisses her goodbye, and then leaves. And that it basically ends the chapter with Violet sobbing afterwards. And I know this does happen after intense makeout scenes or intense scenes in real life, but Violet basically sobs into her pillow. And I know emotions run high during sex, but if your partner is sobbing afterwards, you might have done something wrong. So chapter 15 opens with Rock being his bossy self and basically demands that they go for ice cream. Sorry, piñata juggernauts that have 5,000 calories in them, apparently. They're back at the milking farm, and we learn they're going to the vampire restaurant that Gilly works at. Only their reservation isn't until 1 o'clock in the morning. But don't get too comfy, though, because we flash back to Violet with one of the earners, and we talk about the Minotaur having to sell his seed to put his youngest through college. Violet suggests oysters and spinach to help with his production count. And I did actually like that because that is actually true, that they do both help with production count. So if you are trying for babies, oysters and spinach. See, I'll still provide you some cool facts and advice and shit. We're just also going to be reading books at the same time. We then have another go at trying to convince us that it's not work. She'd long ago accepted that Kareem was right. This wasn't work. Yes, it is. You've talked about it being a to them. Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I don't care if you don't get any enjoyment for it. It's work. Get over yourself. Then, just to break my brain even more, Stiff Grip Sally walks past in the Alpine Milkmaid scrubs, and Violet in a monologue says this. Well, it's still for some of them. Now listen, just because you don't get a kick out of it doesn't mean that it's not work. And let's not forget how wet you got the first time touching Rock's magical Violet. There was no need to reflect on the tingle between her thighs. It's not though, right, guys? It's not she doesn't think it's though, right, guys? Your pleasure has nothing to do with it. If genitals are involved and there are transactions in more way than one, then I'm sorry, it's artwork. End of discussion. Moving on. We're back with Rourke and Violet, still talking about ice cream, and I gotta say, this made me laugh. You can pick the flavour. There are chocolate stars inside and rainbow confetti. So frankly, I don't understand why this is even a conversation. I quite like Rourke as a character. He's definitely my type of male love interest. Shame he's a cow. So basically, he's there because he thought it'd be a good idea to take the edge off his big date that night with a girl he really likes, but decides to save it all for her. Ooh, 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 ooh. He says he really likes this girl and he can see himself with her, like, for a really long time, that she checks all his boxes, and tonight is the big night. And tonight is supposed to be the big night. We've been taking things slow. I'm a gentleman after all. Yes, such gentleman, big gentleman, much gentleman. I was getting into it, and then Violet started talking. It was backward thinking and stupidly outdated, but her mother and aunt had talked about no one buying the cow when the milk was free for years. Guess what? I think a lot of women are starting to understand that actually it's not outdated. It's not backwards, and it's not stupidly outdated. Kind of true. You give it away for free. Why would they want to put a commitment to you? Just saying. Just putting that out there. Just putting that out there. Yeah, I had opinions on that line. Call it backward thinking and stupidly outdated all you want, but it's true. Hell, I saw this on Twitter the other day. It's an article talking about women in their 30s realising they've been robbed of valuable years, having permanent boyfriends instead of starting families. Hell, this isn't even about gender or anything like that. Like, why would someone commit their life to you when they got everything out of you without committing in the first place? If you want to know how men become players, it's because women let them play with them. Dignity and grace, it goes a long way, I promise you. Anyway, he decides he's going to leave, but not before telling her that she should come over ready for post-dessert activities first. I wonder what that could mean. I also couldn't help but chuckle at her inner monologue here as well. It's a good thing we're going back to his place then. You'd wind up going up the washing machine in the building from the mess in your sheets. Mrs. M will try to do her laundry after you and get covered in Minotaur milk. It's alright, it's just extra starch. Oh, exactly. Oh, these bed sheets are a bit stiff. Oh dear. We jump forward to Violet going to Rourke's house, not ready for post-dessert activities, and he most certainly makes his annoyances very well known. You're wearing entirely too many clothes. I thought we were going for ice cream, she exclaimed with a laugh, earning a terse headshake in return. He tisked, tisk, crossing his massive arms over his chest, and she held her breath, but the towel stayed where it was. We discussed this. After dessert activities first, then dessert. Then we'll need to take a nap, since we'll be going to dinner in the middle of the fucking night. I like Rourke. Shame I don't like Violet, but I like Rourke. He's fun. Shame he's a bull. Not before this, though. Over his pebbled nipples. Oh, he does have 6 nipples! He has 6 nipples, confirmed. Oh, in case you're wondering why Rourke is naked, he's just stepped out the shower and is basically just in a towel. We talk a little bit about how Violet has borrowed a dress from Gilly, and we get another bit of advice from Gilly here. Do you want him to be able to reach across the table and pinch your nipple or not? No, actually. Not in a restaurant. You'll get thrown out. That's how you end up getting barred from places. They get naked, and again I chuckled at this line. His scowl growing deeper as he eyed the mesh bra and panties. I can't believe you wore underwear. Now you want to keep your panties on. Violet, did you by chance think I was talking about a different date? The more I read this book, the more I really do actually like Rourke. If you write male love interests like this, I'll probably enjoy the story. But for the love of Christ, do not write a love interest like Violet. I was beginning to like her, but she's going downhill fast. She's so whiny and indecisive. Like, it's not even done in an endearing way. It's just annoying. Anyway, back to the sexy time, and Violet finally has this epiphany. and how completely non-human he really was. Now you realise. Now's the time you realise. Oh, wow, look, you are a bull, aren't you? And just to drive home how non-human he is, seeing him like this, standing over her, broad-chested, thick with muscle, every inch of him covered in his silky coarse hide, his bulging thighs giving way to hocks and hooves, his thin the tail's back, in a sinuous whip behind him, felt positively primal. Oh no. Moo. 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 Where's Fredbear? Fredbear, come back. I need you, Fredbear, come on. Sit with me, Fredbear. We've only got a couple of chapters left. We can do this. Yeah, if I had to read that line, so did you. We then get a little more world building, because this is exactly the time for world building. We basically find out that in ancient times, the women were sacrificed to the Minoan king. I think that's how you pronounce it. The first Minotaur, basically. But they weren't killed or ate in the way that humans thought they were. There's more sexy time, and he snuffles over her. I may have lost it at this point as well in my read-through. Living at her nipples in turn, and catching them in his blunt teeth, scraping and snuffling. Moo! We also get another delightful description of his mouth. The shape of his mouth meant he didn't so much suck on her as he did slurp on it. An act that involved the roughness of his tongue and the pressure of suction, but wetter and somehow much better. No, moo! We also have another no-no word for sexy scenes, and that's slurp. I think I may have mentioned it earlier, but it comes up here, and slurp is not a sexy word. It really isn't, I'm sorry. So we're finally in the actual deed between them. Y'all ready for a bit of bull? Tough if you're not. He enters her slowly, and Violet begs for his which, of course, he happily obliges, saying this, I'm going to spoil your with this big bull every day, if that's what you want. Moo! More like ruin it. I know the vagina stretches and all that, but I don't think it stretches that much. I think when tearing starts getting involved, I don't think it stretches back properly anymore. I suppose when they have babies, it means they just drop out easier, doesn't it? Oh no, Fredbear, come back! Fredbear, you've abandoned me, come back! No! You can't run away, Fredbear, you're not allowed, come back. And we finally get confirmation, Rourke has a magic. They stayed because they were addicted to the way that they were filled. See? Told you, it's a magic. So after that, we get this line here, and I lost it through my read-through. I want to feel you around my Violet. I want you to squeeze me until your has a permanent shape of me. It already has. Because it's the only that's ever going to make you scream like this again. Yeah, no, human men are probably just going to be able to walk in there now. Hello. She begs him to release inside her, and we get another graphic description of his seed, and my gag reflex could not handle this scene at all. You're very welcome, Patreons. We do, however, get this rather cute and sweet line from Rourke after it's all done. Violet, are you okay? I didn't hurt you, did I? Talk to me, sweetheart. I need your words. Am I going to need to carry you to ice cream? That's cute, I like that bit. What can I say? I like stoic men that are sweethearts behind closed doors in my romance smut books. I think it's adorable. The chapter ends with them getting up and cleaning up, and ends with this delightful bit. First, though, she had to get up and clean up, which might be quite the undertaking. Covered as she was in his sticky sweet cream. Oh, no! Bad touch, stranger danger. I don't like it. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're excited to see what this vampire restaurant looks like, don't worry, you find out never.
Don't think about it.
Right, we're on to the last 2 chapters now. Come on, we can do this. It's the morning after the and they're lazing in bed, and we have more snuffling from Rourke. Violet's trying to wake him up, and we get a little flashback to them at a florist in Cambric Creek, where Violet is surprised that bug people know a lot about plants. We also have more talk about kids, with Violet's inner monologue saying this. Not for a decade, at least. Yeah, famous last words. But considering she wanted him to fill her with his seed, the chapter previous, I have a feeling they might be famous last words. She's still trying to get him up, that pun may be intended, and she decides to fondle him in his sleep. Now, remind me, when this is done to a woman, it's a word I can't say on YouTube because they'll have a fit, is it not? I'm sure I read somewhere a load of women screaming it was. I must have been dreaming. So she gives him a BJ, which, ladies, if you want your man, or in fact, gentlemen as well, if you want your man to be in a good mood all day, this works a treat. What's my sauce? Life experience. I should say Violet attempts to give him a as he's rather large, as we've been told multiple times now. We flash back to a time when she did try to give him one. Are you confused by the timeline? Because I bloody am. And she basically gags around him, which makes him gag. I suddenly didn't feel so alone with my gag reflex after reading this bit. Stop! Oh wow, even he's doing it now. She'd pulled back in surprise from where she'd knelt before him, a thin strand of drool connecting her mouth to his only to watch her giant, strong boyfriend retch dramatically. A bit like me! So she's waking him up, and, well, just listen. It was a juggling act, keeping her mouth around his and milking his with one hand, while using the other to work two fingers into his Well, that escalated. I also set my gag reflex off once again with the next scene. The towel came in handy to catch the over... Oh no. Set off my gag reflex again. No. Oh no. No. But he finishes, and I couldn't help myself when Violet endeavours not to choke on his seat. When the first burst of his thick cream hit her throat, she gagged immediately and died from suffocation. We also learn that there's special enzyme pods that break down bulls. Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't get the image of Mrs. M T-posing for dominance out of my head, and it broke me. Thinking of poor Mrs. M and the sanctity of her cardigans. It's alright, you'll just go around T-posing on everyone. T-posing for dominance, it's fine. Oh, this cardigan's very stiff. Oh no, it might have broken me again. Oh, sorry. We're now introduced to L'Oreal's boyfriend, an orc with a southern accent, and I gotta say, my voice work was fantastic once again. Journey, please, you're gonna wake up Mama, and then we're both gonna be in trouble. Is that what you want? He's basically chasing L'Oreal's little dog around the garden, and Violet and Rourke finally decide to get up, get dressed, before heading over to see the neighbours. L'Oreal asks Violet how it went, and she's not talking about her bedroom activities. No, apparently Violet was given an opportunity for an interview for her dream job. The job would be perfect. How convenient! We also get another flashback of Violet on the job interview at the Black Sheep Beanery, and she thinks this. Violet was half certain it was an elaborate joke. For dreamy-sounding jobs in cosy little carriage houses with ivy-clad walls in quaint little towns only existed in those predictable romance movies that she would binge-watch from her sofa. I'm sure you heard my eye roll there. And I wrote this in my book. But again, don't get comfy, because we have another flashback of a conversation between Violet and Rourke, where she asks if he wants her to stop working at the farm. He says no, and what kind of grade A piece of shit would I have to be to insist that you quit? Now I'm going to sound like an outdated monogamous Nancy here, but if this was me in this situation, this would depend entirely if he was still going to be going to the farm, which he is. Like, the idea of something else The idea of someone else giving him pleasure would mess with my head too much, and it would also mess with Violet's head, given her early jealousy of Stiff Grip Sally touching her bull. So the fact that he doesn't want her to quit does actually give Rourke brownie points here. Now, if he'd said yes and he was still planning to go, we'd be having a completely different conversation. Anyway, Violet tells him about what the staff call the different types of bulls that frequent the farm. You know, the earners, the clock watchers, and the good little cows. I've been scarred for life by good little cows. He finds the idea of the good little cows hilarious, not the only one, and asks her to milk him like one of the French cows. Milk him like one of her French cows. Don't you bring Titanic into this! So she decides to keep 2 shifts at the farm. Not just because her dream job isn't full-time and the hours are flexible and she can use the second income to pay off her debts. No, because as I predicted earlier, she hated the idea of any other technician handling her bull. Anyway, back once again at the Black Sheep Beanery, where Violet is waiting for the interviewer. But again, don't get comfy, cause we get more flashbacks. I gave up trying to keep track of what was happening by this point. We get the phone call she has with her mother that morning. Her mother asks if she'd called someone at the museum about a job opportunity that would have Violet moving back home. And while I know her mother is a smother, I had to agree with her here. I know this is probably a bit under your level, darling, but you have to think about getting a foot in the door somewhere. Now, fair to Violet, because it's nowhere near her field in chicken tickling, art history, but still, it's a good piece of advice. You do gotta start somewhere. As I keep saying, you don't just drop into your dream job as soon as you come out of university. I generally don't understand where you've all gotten that idea from. You know, not everyone is a main character in a smut book and gets their dream job dropped into their laps. Some of us have to actually work for it. So Violet basically drops the bomb, or bull, that she's got a job interview and she won't be moving back home, and that she has a boyfriend. She doesn't quite mention that he's a Minotaur just yet. Because first we get another flashback of Violet and L'Oreal talking over a bottle of wine. She's joined a few groups that support interspecies couples, but L'Oreal is far more blunt about things, which Violet appreciates. Violet also has this to say about Cash, L'Oreal's boyfriend. His own generous ass in there. You shouldn't be looking at his ass. You've got your own bull to be looking at. L'Oreal's telling Violet about how the little cultural differences can be a little challenging at first, and that people will make comments. Violet agrees, saying that she and Rourke gets looks whenever he comes to the city, and it's almost always by humans. L'Oreal tells her about a little bat woman in a supermarket who asked if they were planning to adopt because she'd never carry an orc, remarking that she didn't handle it well as she was buying a pregnancy test at the time. She's not pregnant, but we do get this interesting line. We're smart people who are both bad at birth control, so every month is an adventure. Well, you're not really smart people then, are you? We then talk families, with L'Oreal saying Cash has a super large family, and it's a bit overwhelming, which I can't relate to because I have a super huge family too. And for someone who doesn't like crowds, I don't know, you get used to it after a while. She also says this: I know they wish he would have settled down with some nice orcish girl. And I mean, yeah, that's a parent's obligation to want what's best for our kids. Like, not saying L'Oreal isn't a good match, but you'll understand what I mean in a little bit. Violet imagines what it'd be like taking Rourke home for Christmas dinner, and I chuckled far too much at this line here. She could imagine Mrs. Tinsley pressing her face to the glass to get a glimpse of the Minotaur, the hooved dinner guest with a tail. Moo! L'Oreal also finishes our rant by saying that, yeah, it sometimes sucks, but if you're good together, it's worth it. And you know what? I couldn't agree more with that. But it doesn't matter if you work through it together. Good. I like. Yes, good piece of dating advice. I like it. If you love each other and you're good together, it's worth it. See, there is some decent pieces of advice throughout this. Not that I'm saying that you take advice from your smut books, obviously. But there are some nuggets of gold in there. Anyway, Violet breaks the meaningful moment by asking how L'Oreal and Cash fit together. He's got to be like 7 feet tall, and his hands are huge. And you're so petite. Did she really just ask how they Is that really what that question was? Okay. I can tell you how he fits the same way that your bull fits you. Turns out elves are very stretchy, and I lost it during my react through. You're not afraid to ask the important questions. Oh, that's an important question, is it? Okay, actually, this is an easy one. Elves are stretchier. We're all related to Mr. Fantastic. In fact, he can just walk in there. So L'Oreal explains that the elvish species is dying out and that they want elves to have babies with other elves. To keep the species alive. Now, I get it. We all fall in love with who we fall in love with. I have no issues on that. You do you, sweetheart. I simply have 4 stipulations that you have to keep to. They're old enough to consent, they actually consent, you're not related, and you're both humans. Now, I know that last one gets a bit murky when we're talking about this story, but generally I'm talking about normal animals, not sapient humanoid species. Anyway, what I'm saying is I don't care what you get up to in the privacy of your own bedroom, but if your species was getting wiped out because you're breeding with other species, surely there would be some kind of law to help keep the species alive? No? Am I reading a little bit too much into a simple beast romance smut book? Yeah, probably. Though L'Oreal backs up my previous breakdown that Rock would have killed Violet with his... they're talking about a female. They're talking about a female human. I would usually just say woman, but that's not descriptive enough here, so female human with an orc, and she says this. And I just want to tell her, honey, he's going to perforate your cervix. There's nothing sexy about that. You're damn right. Thank you. This is exactly... You should be saying this to Violet. Not just to the random person with the orc. You should be telling this to Violet, because I can tell you now, he's most certainly perforated her cervix. I did think this line was cute, though. She did love him. She was sure of it, and he was worth it. So, back on the phone with Violet's mum, and this is where she finally tells her mum about Rock. Now, we don't get the mum's reaction to this, which, I'm sorry, I want to know how her mother reacted to the news her daughter was dating a bull. I need to know what her reaction was. Like, literally, all we get is a vague comment that Violet knew it would take her mother some time, and that Violet's own reaction would have been completely different 10 years earlier. But I want to know! I want to know how she reacted! So, once again, back in the Black Sheep Beanery with Violet still waiting for the interviewer to turn up, and she's super anxious. Which, as someone with anxiety, totally relate to this. Violet goes up again in my book a little bit. It's been a bit of a roller coaster with her as a character, but I will get into that in the overall review later. Rock had told her at some point during the flashback that everything will be fine, and if it's not, then it's their loss. She wishes that she had some of his assertiveness, but admits they'd likely not be a very good match if she was just as bossy, and I may have had a little bit of a rant at this. They'd likely not be a very good match if she were just as bossy. Exactly. There's a reason why assertive men like submissive women. And it's not because they just want to control them, it's just because 2 bossy people don't work properly. The chapter ends with the interviewer finally turning up. They're a werecat that for some reason I thought was a woman. And they have the interview. Last chapter now, and we're in the garden with Rourke doing some yard work while wearing a certain t-shirt. She wasn't sure what shocked her more now, the sight of him casually dressed in a white t-shirt, tight around his biceps and straining across his broad back, or the fact that it was emblazoned with the words Mega Milkers and the farm's logo. Of course he's got a t-shirt. Violet wants to know where he got it from, and it's basically from one of the reward tiers that the farm offer to their top earners. This was mentioned earlier during the sexy time, because Rourke has a large bottle of the lube that the farm uses on his nightstand. I was just trying not to lose my mind, trying not to think too much during that scene to remember to tell you. Apparently there's a bunch of tiers and rewards ranging from a coffee cup to lube to even a tote bag. Violet asks how many loads he had to shoot to work up his way from the coffee mug, and he says it happened a lot quicker since she started working there. He also says this, and I may have broke a little bit. I went from the water bottle to the coffee cup in a month. You start milking me like... Ew. You start milking me like your little cowboys. We might have a tote bag by Halloween. You can use it for trick-or-treating. Though in true feminist fashion, Violet throws his shoe at him before heading back inside. He easily dodged the shoe she threw at him. Ah, true feminist. See, I told you she was violent. Gilly messages asking her how her interview went and asks if she needs to train one of her neighbours. Violet goes on about how she had friends who would jump at the chance to be looked after and trading independence for lunches and shopping and makeup. And again, I had a rather big rant. Had friends who'd done exactly that, trading their independence for the ability to splurge on lunches and shopping and makeup. You know how you were talking about outdated and backward thinking? That's very much outdated and backward thinking. A way to keep herself from growing too dependent on his money and bossiness and desire to have her around all the time. But that's the whole point of a relationship. I mean, obviously not 24/7, but it's not the idea of growing dependent on them. It's the idea that you grow together. You become a team. That's the whole idea of it. And since my React read-through, I've had a little bit more time to think on this as well. The writer is clearly feminist, but her impression on traditional relationships is, quite frankly, very outdated. Does she really think that if you move in with a partner, or God forbid get married, that you just suddenly lose your independence? Getting married isn't some sort of prison sentence. And if you do think that, then maybe look at your dating life. Anyway, moving on, Violet tells her that she wants to speak to someone from her leasing office, that she thinks it went really well, and not tweet the neighbour. Which again I chuckled at. Rock has finished the yard work and comes in to get a shower, with the book mentioning he wears silicone gaiters while in the house. Pressing his hooves into the silicone gaiters she'd learned most hooves residents. I think you're meant to say hooved residents there, not hooves residents. Wore indoors to prevent catching their sharper edges on carpeting and preserving their bed linens. Oh my god, it goes to bed with shoes on. I don't know why that tickled me for. And of course, Violet joins him in the shower, and they have some good old-fashioned shower smecks, including some more snuffling. He finishes, and I couldn't contain myself once more at the description of his slipped from like a particularly I'm sorry. I need to read this line again. I'm sorry. His slipped from her like a particularly copulent eel. We're back to tentacles again. We get a time jump again, and we're with Violet at the farm for the last time of the book, and she's with a bull that is taking a little longer than normal. He's almost there, but just not quite enough. He basically admits to her that he needs her to hit his butt to push him over, which Violet gladly does. Her inner monologue also wonders if he's a mega milker too. She gets a phone call after this client, clearly the job interviewer telling her that she got the job, and heads to her last appointment of the day, which is Rock. Rock is already on the bench, and he tells her that he wants to be milked like a good little cow. I'm sorry, I still crack up over that. We get a little flashback of Violet and Gilly talking about her fear that she and Rock might burn out as quick as they started. Gilly disagrees, telling her that they actually spend time together and it's not just all passion, and says this horrid line: It took 100 bloody years to give you the old dickory dock. Oh God, no. No. We go back to Violet milking Rock, and my gag reflex started kicking off again. We also find out that she's going to be signing papers for a new apartment. Once he's been milked, Rock then asks if she got the job, which she did, and says he hopes that her new apartment has a short-term lease. And Violet has this to say: and even though it was wildly premature, in a conversation she wouldn't dream of broaching until well after her lease was up, she secretly wondered if he'd ever consider having another ring fitted through his wide pink nose. Oh. So in one chapter, she goes from wanting to keep her independence to happily thinking of marrying him. Again, I'm not saying that you lose your independence when you get married, but Violet certainly does. Do you see why I don't like Violet? She's so inconsistent. Oh my god. And it has nothing to do with being a millennial. I'm a millennial. I mean, yes, I was brought up around Gen Xers, but that's not the point. Anyway, moving on. Rock wants her to go collect a dessert from some kid's arcade because she won't stick out as much as he will, and doesn't intend on sharing it with her at all, though promises to make it up to her. She says he's definitely going to be making it up to her, and the book ends with this line here. If a job was worth doing, it's worth doing well. And you know what? If that had been the first sentence of the book, that would have been really good, but it wasn't, so it's meh. I do like the callback though. Right, so onto the review. If you skipped to this part, hi! You missed so many breakdowns. So the way I want to review these kind of books, or any kind of book, is to have 3 categories, and then an overall score. The categories are romance, spice, and overall story. Romance is the overall romantic chemistry of the couple, and any cute romantic moments. Spice is the smut level, obviously. And story is my thoughts on the overall story and world building. Let's start with romance. The romance of Morning Glory Milking Farm is gonna get a 3 out of 5 stars from me. I do genuinely like Rock and Violet's relationship. I know it may not seem it with my, I don't want to say hatred because that's too harsh, annoyance of Violet, but I do think they make a good cute couple. I like Rock's charm when he's not being a feminist. And again, I love stoic, cheerful couple dynamics. And I will say Violet is cute when she's not being a millennial. I really do enjoy their banter during the milking sessions. There were a few bits that I did think were really cute, even if Violet was thinking of bull. The only reason it doesn't get a higher score is because there weren't many cute scenes or romantic moments in the book. And yeah, I know it's a smut book, but I can have romance in my smut books. There's nothing wrong with romance in smut books. Now the spice has to be a 4. I know he's a bull and it's icky, but my god, the scenes are very detailed. If you can get over the idea that he's a cow, then you'll really enjoy this book, I think. If you can't get over it, you might still enjoy it, but for other reasons. And if him being a cow is the whole point, then you've probably already read this book. It doesn't quite get a 5-star from me, purely because there's not a lot of it, if that makes sense. Other than multiple hand jobs at the beginning, we only really get one full Smeck scene, half a BJ, him finger banging her in the restaurant, and eating her twice. That's it. Oh, and the shower scene. Like, for a smut book, that's not a lot of Smecks. I mean, I love a bit of variation, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I wanted more smut about a girl and her bull. And story, unfortunately, only gets a 2, and that's because of the sheer amount of grammar and spelling mistakes. I pointed out quite a few of them during my React read-through, and I know I missed a few as well. Which is kind of a shame because I did enjoy the general story. I enjoyed the world building, despite being confused over the waterfall. And I really wanted to find out more about Camden Creek and its strange residents. Which means, yes, we will be reading the other books in this series. There's another 3 books, I believe, or 4 books. So subscribe and all that jazz if you want me to read the other ones. I want to know more about L'Oreal and Cash, and would have loved to know more about how they came together. I also want to know if Mrs. M is okay. She's got dementia. She should be in a home where she won't end up T-posing for dominance because of too much bull in her cardies. So, what is my overall score? I'm giving this book a 3 out of 5. Is it full of grammar and spelling mistakes? Yes. And is it hard to follow at times? Most certainly. But you know what? I had fun reading this. I actually enjoyed the romance between the main characters. And you know what? I also had fun picking it apart too. I enjoy my media in a very strange way. So, that's my review of Morning Glory Milking Farm. What did you... Oh, I'm sorry. Someone seems to be at the door. Please excuse me. My, I wonder who could be knocking at this time of night. Oh. Surprise, you bastards! This is what you get for making me read this. Next review is on the companion book to this one, A Blue Ribbon Romance. You ready for more bull balls? I hope you're ready for more bull balls. And that is it. Thank Christ for that. We have finished the review. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, you know the score. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that jazzy jazz. The next review, as I've just said, will be on the companion book to this one. And again, if you thought Milking Farm was bad, you've read nothing yet. Thank you all for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye!